Hello, everybody. Welcome to UGASports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm your host for the next hour or so. I'm joined by Dayne Young, a super up-and-coming professor at UGA, well, at least an employee of the University of Georgia and a longtime employee of UGASports.com. And we appreciate him running the show for us. Without him, we'd be kind of screwed. And, of course, the person you are all here to see, Coach Jim Donnan, former Georgia Bulldogs head coach, Hall of Famer, legend, and that title is rightfully earned because he is absolutely is a legend, and he's just had a birthday recently. I got a birthday coming up. I'm gonna see if I can get a bigger cake than he did. I don't think it's possible, but we're gonna try. It's always a competition with Coach.
Yeah, I had a really good cake thanks to some of my friends, Nate or Nat or however you want to pronounce it. I call him Nat and Nate, but did a good job for me, and he's always given me some nice things to keep up with UGA and what a loyal supporter he is of the program and our program. You know, he comes and sits and watch, but
he comes and sits here in the Classic City East with me, Coach.
There's not a lot happening around my neck of the woods, so I don't keep up with things like Roddy does. But I just got a question for him right off the bat because he's the personnel man on UGA Sports. So why would a coach that just won the national championship and take a lateral move to a program that's really on, tough situation there, and they just hired a new defensive coordinator, so there's really not that much chance to move up. So why would you take a lateral move like that unless – I really don't know what happened there.
Well, and let's reset Roddy before, just so people, if they're tuning in, and Jamal Adai, Georgia's defensive backs coach, going to Miami. So that's what we're talking about.
Adai, here's the thing. It's not really a surprise to the readers of UGA Sports because we told them on January 11th, 12th, 13th, right after the bowl game, we said, look, here's what we're hearing on Jamil Adai. He is not going to be coaching at Georgia next year. Not in a mean way, not that he's been fired. He's not going to be here. And here's some names of guys to watch, we told people a month ago that this was going to happen. So it's funny to see a lot of breaking news stories yesterday. Jamil Adai not expected to be back at UGA. I'm like, that shit broke a month ago. Where were you guys at? But anyway, I tease, but it's changed up. And Coach, you know this better than I do. Sometimes, things just don't work out. But I'm with you. If you're going if you're not getting a promotion, you're going from a national championship team to a team that's being rebuilt. It's not going to be a situation where Miami's going to come out and outpay Georgia. I don't see that happening. They've never really been up with the big spenders. So you're going from a better situation to a lesser situation, or at least when it comes to where you're at. You just won a national title versus having to build towards one, and you're not getting a personal pay raise or more policies. I don't see it, Coach. I don't understand. To me, the writing's on the wall. I don't want to say anything to get me to be wrong, but to me, I'm just reading between the lines. That just looks like it just didn't work out, and that's the only way I can put it. It's just I don't see that. Landing made sense.
More than likely, based on what you said, that's probably what happened. I haven't kept up with it, but I just can't see Miami. He's making $500. Here's what I looked up. They might pay him a little more, but here's the thing for Georgia people that everybody needs to understand that I can say as a coach here, knowing that we've got a very outstanding athletic director who is on top of everything. Our president is behind the head coach. Look at what all we've done here. So if it was a financial situation, I would say that Georgia would more than make that move if they wanted to keep him. And, it's a situation where the guy is, would feel more comfortable not being here, or who knows. But I don't want anybody to wring their hands saying, well, why don't we try to keep him? Look, if we wanted to keep him, his ass would be here.
That's exactly what I was saying, Coach. When you read between the lines, you're going from you're not going up in programs, you're not going up in jobs.
If he wanted to stay, but it might that he just feels you got Kirby helping with the defensive backs, you got Muschamp all of a sudden was not a full-time coach and became one with the Cochran situation. It really wasn't the same situation that he was hired into, and all of a sudden he's coaching the corners and Muschamp's coaching the safeties, and Muschamp's taking over a lot of the recruiting for the DB. And Hartley's doing the same thing with Singletary, and those things happen. But you got a head coach here that takes charge, and he can figure out what he needs to do. And we had some young DBs, and he worked around that. So I would just say that what we need to do right now is FIDO, forget it and move on, and understand that Kirby will get a secondary coach. They're stacked up wanting to come here. So I'm not really worried about that. We'll get a good recruiter, which Adai was, but I don't think he's the second best recruiter in the country. In fact, he's not in the top 4 or 5 on our own staff. So as far as results, but he gets credit for some guys that he didn't recruit. I mean, just because everybody just assumes that because he's a secondary coach, but a lot of those.
I made that assumption early on, Coach. I thought that this guy was bringing in everybody until we actually start reading their stories and talking about. I spoke to Kirby. I talked to Will Muschamp, and they would mention Coach Adai too, but they were really the recruits who signed with Georgia were really gung ho on actually talking to Kirby himself.
The guy did a good job. I mean, hey, anyway you look at it, well, let's give him credit for that. And but I think we got to be careful about giving him too much credit. Nobody wins all these plaudits on a championship team. The players deserve that. Lanning did a great job coaching, Trey Scott, all those guys. They had a tremendous defense. So if he wants to go to Miami and go down there and fight for play in the Horse Bowl next year, let him go. Let's go for it. Let's see if they make it. But
no, I think it's also a good time, Coach. Right now is if coming off a national championship. If you're a coach on that staff, you are very, very coveted. They're like, how do you guys do it?
Go somewhere as a defensive coordinator, or have all these jobs offered to you. Like Schumann did. I mean, Schumann had a chance to.
He had like 4 chances, did he not?
We may have lost Coach there for a second. I'll look at it this way, though. If you're making an assistant coach trade and you get BMAC from Miami and you lose Adai to Miami, if it's a trade like that, Georgia probably comes out in the good, especially in the recruiting game.
Yeah, give me Coach BMAC anytime. That's a huge hire there. I know a lot of people talked about, he and Kirby don't get along. I'm like, you mean 2 world-class recruiters or 2, type A personalities, 2 guys wanted to be head coaches, recruiting the state of Georgia, went head-to-head and argued over a possible commit or a possible recruit. Shocking. I remember Kirby and Mike Bobo going head-to-head over Malcolm Mitchell and Jay Rome and guys like that. And, it happens, but again, they're at the end of the day, you're professionals. There are people on the beat that I try to beat them every day, but I consider them to be friends. We would go head to head trying to break a story, but I still would love to hire those people and have them on my staff, and vice versa. So you can't worry about some of the stuff like that. But I'm with you. Getting Brian McClendon. I don't know if we talked about that last week, but I thought that's a huge pickup.
The other thing that I thought about, and maybe this is just because of my coming of age of watching Georgia football a lot in the Richt era, is you start looking at these guys that played at Georgia that are now like super successful coaches.
Yeah.
And obviously the ones that played for Coach Donnan here, when you start to talk about the Kirby Smarts of the world, but the next generation of that. I mean, Joe Cox just gets hired at Alabama. Christian Robinson is, in his 3rd SEC job, 4th, I think now at Auburn. There's a lot of guys that played at Georgia in the 2000s and the 2010s that are now really good head coaches. And so to see Thomas Brown in the Super Bowl, you're seeing that there as well. Kirby's building that for the next generation too.
Yeah, a thing that's really interesting to me, which I don't want to take anything away from the dictator, but in 2020, what was South Carolina's record? It wasn't great. I know they win 3 games, or
it was only like 3 or 4.
Not enough to keep Will on there, which I wish he could have stayed. But from a perspective here, the 2020 national championship team was Alabama, and the 2022 team for Alabama has not won, not 3, but 4 assistant coaches now, new coaches on their staff that all coached at South Carolina in 2020. So, it's obvious that Coach Muschamp had some good coaches there.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, Jimmy Sexton represents all of them, and Nick listens to Jimmy. So, hey, all of a sudden you got Joe, good young coach, Travaris Robinson, good the line coach from Kentucky, who was coached 1 year at Kentucky, was at South Carolina in 2020, and also the special teams guy from Ole Miss, who was at South Carolina. So Nick's got 4 of those people, 4 people over there. When they come to work every day, they got to be humming that South Carolina fight song. That's pretty awesome.
That's crazy. I never really realized that they had 4 of those guys over there. That's why we love having Coach on, because he keep catches stuff like that all the time that I completely miss. I do want to mention Georgia has a new guy on staff. I'm gonna try to get this name down.
Chidera Uzo-Diribe.
Yeah, Uzo-Diribe. Very, very young guy out of TCU. We know that they were looking at Kyle Pope, from Memphis. They checked him out. Chidera came in, apparently blew him away with his interview there. So they brought in a new guy. That's the new Dan Lanning replacement. And let's bring Coach on, because I want to ask him a question about the Coach. They got this young guy. Oops, we lost him again.
Yeah, I think we're having some internet issues with Coach. But once we get him back, we'll go with this route. Let's give the resume for Chidera Uzo-Diribe, though, because one thing that I thought when I saw Colorado on there, I'm like, oh, is this a Mel Tucker guy? They didn't overlap. And as far as I can tell, Roddy, there isn't a direct connection from him to one of the primary coaches at Georgia. And so this is really a respect through the industry kind of hire.
No, exactly. That's kind of what, when I was looking up that Kyle Pope guy at Memphis, at least saw that he had coached at Alabama previously. And I thought Anthony Dasher did a great job talking to a couple of, people that knew Chidera pretty well. They either were coached by him or played with him, and they just raved about the guy. And talking to people in the industry, they said, look, this guy's an absolute up-and-comer. He relates to kids. He's a strong recruiter. And I think it's good that, Kirby's got, you can go out and get someone super established, but a lot of these names, guys, you just didn't know. I mean, nobody knew really who Dan Lanning was. That's not a shot against him. It's just he wasn't really well known, and now he's got the Oregon job. When Kirby goes in on some of these young guys, and again, you could point to a Jamil Adai and say, well, he wasn't that well known, but it didn't work out with him. Well, here's the thing. Look at all the guys who've moved up. Like you said, the Mel Tuckers of the world, the Sam Pittmans of the world. I mean, Kirby's bringing in. He when he can get a big name, he does. Getting Sam Pittman was huge. But when he brings in a guy that you don't know, just accept the fact that maybe his Rolodex is a little bit bigger than especially for someone like us who follows one team. I don't know. I mean, when Coach brings up 4 guys at South Carolina that are on the staff now, I didn't even realize that. I thought 2 of them. So the people within the industry are pretty high on Chidera. And if he's good enough for Kirby, he should be good enough for the rest of us.
Yeah, I want to make a point on that. I don't know what's happened to my internet. I just went over there and see, if I paid my bill or something. But I apologize. But chaps
Yep.
my ass to come in and off. But here's the thing: I checked out people before that we've hired through my contacts. But what I always like is when somebody unsolicited sends me something. It's not like, hey, tell me about Radi Nabulsi. And they say, who? Who is that? No, basically, I didn't even do anything on this new guy that's a defensive end coach because I hadn't really heard much about him. But right off the bat, a guy that is probably as loyal a guy as I've ever had was a manager for me at Marshall. Used to do everything but clean up he did everything. And I got him a job at Iowa State as assistant equipment manager. And he ended up going to TCU as equipment manager. Then he moved up to ops. And now he's got a similar role to Jonas Jennings here, player development. But as soon as that guy was announced, he sent me a text and said, Coach, you're getting a real big time guy here. Said he's somebody on the move. He's really a good guy. He's a good recruiter, and he really relates well to the players. Now, I don't need that to share that with you, except to tell you I like it when somebody tells me that unsolicited. Also, I got one from a coach at Colorado who's no longer there that was there with him. And he was very high on his personal skills, on his genuineness, just things like that. As soon as he was hired, within like 30 minutes of when I got that other text, and I haven't talked to that guy in a year. So when you get two of those like that, that pretty much tells me that we're on the move here. And you look at what Kirby did there, you got to look at everybody's talking about what's he going to do with Cochran? What are we going to do with Muschamp? What are we going to do with that? But it was pretty obvious that he was going to hire a really good, young, talented guy to help in recruiting and also somebody to develop that had some pass rush skills, being a defensive line and defensive end guy. So they brought in several people, including a guy I didn't know, but I read where Roddy said they brought in a guy from Memphis and who did that. And so we don't know who all they interviewed, but it was just an idea that very selective. And so I could see the staff setup, as far as what I see, continue to have the special teams handled by assistant coaches and these analysts that are. We lost Robbie Disher, but we brought a guy in from Duke. But those guys doing that, like Hartley on the punt and Del McGee on the kickoff return, all that stuff. And then have two defensive coordinators and Muschamp coaching the safeties and Schumann coaching the linebackers, bringing another secondary coach. And that's the way I see the staff alignment. I feel like Cochran will continue here, but maybe in an analyst role. But he could be on the field, but I don't see that happening. And, you mentioned probably while I wasn't on here about bringing in BMAC. That's a good move. He knows what George is all about. It won't take him long to get on the road and really help our recruiting. I think Hankton got a bad rap on that to some extent because you look at all the things he did off the field with these dogs for pups, the way he rallied the community, the way he handled kids. And, our system was not conducive to recruiting a lot of receivers until Monken got here. So Monken's gotten some guys that I think along with Hankton. So we'll see how that goes. But that's a good hire. He'll blend in, and that's what you got to have, continuity. You don't want some guy coming in here that thinks he's going to be the coordinator and all that. You got one in Monken there, and it's tough for Faulkner because he's kind of in the middle here. He's put 2 hard years in as an analyst, and then you bring in another receiver coach, but. I hope we can get another year out of Faulkner. He's turned down some good jobs this year. I mean, he had a chance to go to Memphis, wanted to talk to him several places. But, he likes his role and his family likes it here. And he's like pennies from heaven having a coach like him, just like Jay Johnson we had. So we've got a strong staff, and Kirby's blending it here. We got some new people in the operations department. Neelan Raper, Neelan's going to be the ops guy, and he's brought in a young guy from Purdue that he knows. They moved Anna Corson up, who's a really aspiring young, talented girl. Young lady's going to do a good job. So everything's going good here, and we'll get a good secondary coach.
I thought I was connected.
He might surprise me. He might surprise me on the Cochran situation. I don't know. But don't take it for being as a solid truth or not. But I just think when you got a guy like Will Muschamp, 7 years head coach in the Eastern Division of your same conference, one play away from playing for the national championship as a head coach, an assistant defensive coordinator on national championship teams. And you got a chance for him to be an analyst and to move up and be your co-defensive coordinator in 1 year, that's pretty strong. And then particularly losing Lanning, but keeping Schumann was big. And now we got Bobo coming in, who I'm telling you now, but Muschamp did a good job communicating to Kirby. Bobo will do the same. I mean, it'll be really good. So I think our staff right now, even though we've lost guys like Tucker and Lanning and Pittman, I just feel like we got this. If we get the right guy here for the secondary, I feel like we got the strongest staff as anybody in the country.
Well, and Roddy, I even noticed just in the potential recruiting footprint, when you have a Muschamp, when you bring in a Bobo, when you bring in Brian McClendon, they obviously all know the state of Georgia about as well as you can. So getting someone like Uzo Deribe, who most of his experience is the middle of the country, in Kansas, in Colorado, in Texas, that can be an accent for Georgia. And obviously Mike Bobo would know a lot about Colorado recruiting as well. But you start to see kind of the national footprint that's built from this spot. Georgia lost a little bit from South Florida when James Coley left, but you're kind of gaining in some other places now, and this is a national operation.
Hey, make no mistake about what we lost with Coley. All you got to do is look at what A&M. He just signed Smart Stewart. I mean, come on. They got two of the top 5 guys in Florida. They're Texas A&M. So that was a big loss recruiting wise. But I will say this, and I'm going to stop talking, but I'm trying to talk as much as I can so I don't lose the internet so y'all can hang. But I feel like this about Mike Bobo, which Muschamp did last spring before he was hired full time. Just contacting people that he knows and talking to them about, look, I haven't been here in Georgia. I've been these other places, but now I see what we got here. It's unbelievable. I mean, the first day that Mike Bobo was here with his official visit with his son, and I had a chance to see him over there. I guess it's the second day. He spent the night on Friday. And then he was talking about, I can't believe all the stuff we got here, Coach. He was calling me Coach because I was his coach. And he's right. I mean, we got unbelievable facilities and really got a lot of staff people to supplement. And he will be good because he knows all these high school coaches. I mean, he grew up with them, with his dad, kind of like Kirby and kind of like Muschamp. So we have fortified the state of Georgia with our contact role here with these guys. And it doesn't matter that these guys can't be on the road, just the fact that they're calling them or when they come here. Let's just say Dayne's his coach from East Texas and he comes in here to watch spring practice. Well, Mike Bobo just walks around with him and talks to him. I mean, that's invaluable. I mean, he can't coach on the field, but he takes that guy out and points out things to him about the way we coach or shows some tape to him. Or it's just really a big lick for us to have him here, just like we got Muschamp last year.
going to remember it, you know. So that hands, and we've had situations where they've had hundreds of kids here, and we interview them all, and they're like, "Yeah, I spent all this time, you know." There was one coach or one assistant, one person walked around with me the whole time. That means a lot to them. They don't feel like they followed through the cracks, that personal attention. So I think getting Mike Bobo here is huge. And that was right before you dropped out. My question was going to be, do they bring in a secondary coach kind of or do they switch it up? You know, so thank you for answering that. That's a big help because I wasn't sure what they would do if they would just.
I think I would say, ask me a rhetorical question.
That's good. Well, I thought maybe there's
like, are they going to bring in a secondary coach?
Are they going to bring in a secondary coach?
Yes.
Okay. I thought maybe it was like, hey, you've got the defense kind of covered. Maybe this gives you room for an extra offensive coach, maybe like just a quarterback's coach.
How many you want on offense? You got Bobo and Faulkner over there to go with us.
Well, that's the point you made. I hadn't thought about it that way, but you
got 5 full-time coaches on offense, plus you got 3 off-the-field quarterback guys. You got Montgomery Van Gorder. You got
I forgot about him.
Faulkner. You got Bobo. And you got Monken. You got 4 quarterback guys, and you got the one guy that worked that was a GA that I don't think he's going to stay here from Miami who did a good job. If he stays there, you got 5 guys with the quarterbacks. I mean, everybody would have a quarterback, have their own personal guy walking around with him. So
I don't see a problem with that. That's a good idea.
How many more you want? Then you got a GA for offensive line who's going to stay. You got an analyst for the receivers. You got an analyst for the running backs. You got a shoe shine boy. You got what else you want? So you got everything.
Speaking of getting everything, I don't have Dayne there pull up our ad for Dead Soxy. I'm going to mention our friends over there because today's the 8th. Valentine's Day is coming. It's going to be here very, very soon. And I know a lot of you, like myself, are not prepared for it. You don't have you haven't really thought of what you're going to do. You don't want to be the guy buying the gas station rose, you know, the little at the counter at the last second.
You haven't done that before, have you?
No. Or you're like, I'm sure she'd like a gallon of milk. You know, yeah. No, so don't be that guy. Swing by our friends at Dead Soxy. They have a fantastic deal going on for really, really comfortable socks. It's a Valentine's Day sale. It's 30% off site-wide. So everything in there you won't get 30% off. The coupon code is FOOTSY, FOOTSY. So think about playing footsie with your significant other, and you can get her those fantastic True State Technology socks, the ones with the super soft yarn that are made on those great Lanelli machines. You'll really enjoy the feel of them, the fact that they stay up. She'll love them. Or, hey, drop a hint. She doesn't know what to get you. Think about it. You go out and get what you want. If you're a guy, if you're like me, and you can, it's within reason, affordable. When you decide you want something, you go get it. So if you haven't ordered these already and you know you'd like some, just drop a hint. Tell her what you want. Let her get you those socks, especially the Georgia theme socks. Those are fantastic. You'll absolutely love them. Again, 30% off with code FOOTSY. Also want to mention our friends out at Athens Ford. They are they still have vehicles. I was going to say they're running out there. They're running low on vehicles because so many people are out there picking them up. It's insane, the used car market. Dayne, I'll let you touch in on this, but the fact that there are still a goodly number of them out at Athens Ford as compared to everyone else. I mean, it's a tight market, but they have more than anybody I've seen, at least in town. So they also have the best service. So if you need a new or pre-owned vehicle, check out our friends at Athens Ford. Dayne, have you found anything?
Yeah, so we've been in the car market for a bit, and it's just crazy to me that, like, frankly, for money, it looks like if you can find a lot with some new vehicles, you're probably going to get better financing, you're going to get a better deal. And like you said, in the Athens area, you just drive around, you see more vehicles on the lot at Athens Ford that they can get you in a vehicle faster than anyone else. And we've been on the hunt a little bit ourselves and haven't found quite the thing yet, but I promise you Athens Ford is the first place on my list to go check out and say, hey, how many car seats can I fit in that Bronco? Because that's really what I want.
It's a good one. Let's set up some of the questions if you would, Dayne, because I know we had some people drop them in there.
Yeah, so we did ask for questions over at UGAsports.com. Of course, most of them on the topics we've been talking about, which is the assistant coaches. So let's go with this. From MossDog96, what do you think the percentage sits at right now that Todd Monken, and there's all the NFL jobs out there, with those getting filled, what's the chance that Todd Monken returns to Georgia, not taking an offensive coordinator job in the NFL?
Yeah, I would say they've really diminished as far as first of all, he's very happy here. He seems to really like it working in this role. But he would like to be an NFL head coach, I'm sure, or college head coach. But a lot of it's just timing in the NFL. I mean, you got to get a guy that you have a relationship, like he had one with the head coach at Tampa. You just never know. But I would say the more guys that these jobs are filled, the lesser chance that he's going to have an opportunity. And it'd have to be a really good one for him to leave, but based on the talent we got coming back, the schedule, career path he's on. It could happen tomorrow, though. One of his best friends might get one of these last three jobs. You never know. But I would say less than 20%, maybe less than that.
So I think all of the NFL head coaching vacancies are now filled. So it's pretty much would he become one of their offensive coordinators. I thought Jacksonville would be one to watch, but with that being Doug Peterson, he's an offensive guy. I don't know how that could potentially work out. So
there's still a couple left, aren't there? I mean, Saints got hired, and the Texans. What else is left? I thought there was.
I think they're all filled now.
Minnesota took that guy from some kindergarten. No, seriously. Can you believe the guy's 35 years old? I mean, surely, if you look at that Washington staff back in 2011 and 12, I mean, everybody's on the offensive staff now, pretty much a head coach. And I don't even know what their record was with Mike Shanahan, but, you got a lot of good guys off that tree, and we'll have to see if Kentucky loses their offensive coordinator back to the Rams, because he was there as a second or third guy, and the Rams OC just got the Vikings job. So we'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah, because we'll need Eddie Graham to come be the coordinator at Georgia.
Yeah. That's another one we had on the internet. Boy, that's unbelievable.
But as to that question, I do want to say that one of my people told me that Todd Monken actually turned down a nice job in the NFL, or turned down at least an option. And I think it's just like with Glenn Schumann. He's got a lot of options of people that reach out to him. But I think Coach nailed it when it says it's got to be, the timing's got to be right and the fit has got to be right. When you have a great situation like you do at Georgia, it's not like you're fighting to get out of there. It's like, hey, worst case scenario, I stick around and play for another national title.
Yeah. Here's the other thing that I don't think people take into consideration, and I'm not doing an infomercial for Athens or Georgia, but there's a lot more than just coaching a football team. I mean, you've got a family. You couldn't bring them up in any better situation. Like in Todd Monken's case, he's got a son that's in college now, but I mean, in Schumann's case, he's got two young kids. His in-laws live in Atlanta. I mean, his mother and dad live in Texas and come over here. There's just a lot of quality things about being a Georgia coach. If you got kids in junior high or little league sports, I mean, it just you got to be careful when you move your family and uproot them and take them into another situation just to go chase a dream that might not happen when you got a reality here. So I think people need to give us a little credit here for what's around here. And I think the same thing's true with Kirby as far as career. I mean, there's a lot of pro teams that have reached out to him, I'm sure. But there's a lot to be said about your wife going to school here, your mother and dad living close, your kids. So, and, money's one thing, but quality of life is so important. And I don't think you can have much more of a indicator than all of the ex-coaches still live here that coached here in the last 40 years. So
they can't get rid of you guys.
Yeah, I know it.
Hey, add Brian McClendon to that list as the interim head coach for the bowl game, right?
Another head coach back in Athens. Love it.
Yeah, Brian and Glenn Mason's coming over here for a show for a little while, but I saw Glenn Mason several times over the years. The best one that I've never said on TV, or I consider this TV, but the coach at Northwestern. I'm trying to think what his name was. Look at that.
Pat Fitzgerald?
No, before Pat. I mean, he coached out at Colorado too. He went from Northwestern to Colorado, and he interviewed here before Mason, and Coach Dooley and some people brought him in, and so I saw him on a Nike coaches clinic about a year after I took the job, and he had stayed at Northwestern, and he said, "How you like that job?" And I said, "Oh, it's great." He said, "What must be good? You get a membership in the Masters." I mean, somebody told him he could get a membership in the Masters to be the coach here, and I said, "That's no BS, man." I said, "I guarantee you, if I could get that perk, I would have already taken it. It wasn't available for me." But he said, "Well, that's what I've heard I could get, you know." And I said, "Well, you had a little bit more power than I did. I was kind of a reject guy they took at the last, but can you believe he thought he got a membership in the Masters?"
Are we talking Gary Barnett?
Yeah, Gary. I knew Gary when he was a high school coach out there at Academy, at Air Force Academy. And he went to Missouri. That's how I knew him, through Missouri. And we kept up through the 8, through the Big 8 coaches and all. And he's a good guy. And pretty funny, though. He thought he could be get in the Masters.
You mean Vince didn't offer you that, Coach?
Well, I got 4 badges. I got to go down and watch it, but I didn't get them. But hey, Billy Payne and some of those guys took me over there several times, and I had a lot of fun, but no membership.
Did you send Gary a picture from the 18th green?
No. It's just a one-shot deal I'm telling you about, but it's really kind of ironic that guy thought that was a perk for Georgia.
That's hilarious. I love that. That's great insider stuff.
I can promise you Kirby Smart can find his way over there if he wants to.
Yeah, I would think Kirby could probably get in right now if he let it be known that he wanted to be over there. But the problem would be is all these ex-players that played with him and would want to go over there with him. I don't know if they want those guys over there with him. They're great guys, but it'd be funny. Like we went up to the Green Bar one time, and one of my strength coaches pulled out a dip there on the first tee. It was pretty weak.
Hey, I want to tell you about a new sandwich they just came out with over here at Classic City Eats. This is their buffalo chicken sandwich, brand new.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, I think the buffalo chicken sandwich at Publix is the number 1 sandwich in the world right now. We've got a new contender. This thing looks amazing, and we need to wrap up the show here quick so I can eat it. So I just let y'all know.
It looks good.
Yeah.
Let's go with this as the last question about assistant coaches. We do have some other things that people want to discuss, but this is from Dog 418. Says, regarding the defensive back coaching vacancy, does Georgia's inexperienced secondary means that Georgia steers toward a new defensive backs coach, or is Scott Cochran valuable enough as a recruiter to justify him being the 10th assistant as special teams presumably, or Will Muschamp as the official defensive backs coach? And I know, Coach, you've answered a lot of that, but I guess what I want to touch on is the inexperienced secondary portion of it. Does that go into any kind of decision making?
No, we got a lot of experience there with Kirby and Muschamp, so they'll handle that. And I'll tell you one thing, we got talent there now. We got talent coming in here. Watch the tape. Cut on Everett and Singletary and Humphrey and Malachi Starks. I mean, good gracious. We got some good young guys moving up, Bullard and the kid from
Lassiter.
Tallahassee, from Tuscaloosa, Lassiter, and to go with the other one. So our secondary, to me, will be a strength next year. I mean, we got to get the D line fortified here, but linebackers, we got fast guys come, and we got some young guys, Washington and Walker, freshmen are here, and then those defensive ends. So I'm not too worried about our personnel on defense. And I would just say my projection is Muschamp and Schumann, co-coordinators, a new secondary coach, going to stay the same with the special teams, with Cochran continue to be an analyst. And that's my final answer.
That's a good answer.
One thing I'll say on UGASports.com, Anthony Dasher has a really good piece from the Senior Bowl where he talked to outgoing Georgia players that were down there and just asked, hey, who's the next guy that you're watching at the position that you played at Georgia? And you mentioned Kamari Lassiter, and that's Darion Kendrick said, that's one of the guys that I see that, if he can bulk up a little bit more, a lot of potential with that kid.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that's great about being a second team guy on a national championship contender that ended up winning it is all the practice reps you get against the first team offense. So all those guys have played against better competition in practice than they will see in most games next year, and hundreds of reps. I'm talking about one-on-one, pass skeleton, pass rush, just over and over. So they've had a baptism by fire right out there on the field because of our lack of depth. They had to become depth, and they did that. And the other thing that we do better than anybody is special teams use on these guys, where they get some pressurized work at looking at what they need to do. And I'm just telling you, our special teams thoroughness is really good. I've seen some of our scouting reports and some of our the way we teach and the drills we do, to avoid guys and just everything we do is very thorough. Special teams, probably as good as I've seen as far as doing stuff like that. So, you just don't want to pinch yourself and say we got it so good and all that, because, hey, the closer you get to the top of the mountain, the more the wind blows. So we're going to get a lot of best shots from everybody, but this program is in a lot better shape today than it was 6 years ago, and we're going to reload.
I thought it was a good point when you talked about Mike Bobo coming back with Drew Bobo, his son, who signed as an offensive lineman at UGA. We mentioned this the very first week of you mentioned it, and I stole it. First week of the season, we said, just look at Georgia looks like Alabama. Georgia looks like Ohio State. Georgia looks like Clemson. They're big. This is not Georgia of when Mike Bobo left, when Ryan McClendon was here. The bigger, faster players with better facilities. And I love the little video they did when Ryan McClendon showed up in Kirby Smart season. And they give each other a hug, and then they're walking Ryan McClendon through the facility. And his eyes are so bloody big. He's looking around like, damn, where was this when I was here? They showed him his office, and he's just looking around. And like, I want, and then he met some of his wide receivers. And he's like, holy hell! So I'm just thinking,
seriously, wait till about 2 weeks from now when they open up that new meeting room and that cafeteria and the dressing rooms for auxiliary people and all the other. So we've had half of the new building, and that was smart, by Josh Brooks and Kirby, making sure we could use what the players needed: weight room, training room, dressing room, coaches' offices. But now all those other things, which made it very, very tough, because you had to go a long way to get over there to go to a meeting room we're going to have that big theater room. I mean, you could play Ben-Hur in there all night and sit in there and watch that theater room and those sleeping rooms, and it's just going to add to it. And but the thing we got to do though is just start over. That's the way you always do. You start with your strength program and then your spring practice and build your team.
Yep. Start looking forward to spring practice. Hit us up with another one there.
What you want to do in spring practice? Number one. You know what I say? My number one goal in spring practice would be
get out healthy.
throw Darnell Washington about 50 passes a day.
I agree with that.
Till he couldn't lift his arms anymore, Coach.
Tell Brock Bowers to go down to the Masters.
Brock, just take the day off. We know what you can do. You're fine.
So in that same piece from Anthony Dasher, I want to give Devontae Wyatt a little grief because when he was asked that same question of who's the guy at your position to watch for, he said Jalen Carter. It's like, come on, Devontae. We know.
Yeah, give us something big. I mean, really, Devontae? I mean, Javon, come on. Hey, but I'm right now, I walked out. I say this every week, and I'm going to keep saying I walked over there the other day when the guys were out there doing some running in the indoor after they lifted weights. And I saw Carter. I mean, guy's a man now. I mean, just there in his T-shirt and shorts. Scary. I mean, I'm glad I'm his friend. Woo.
So Devontae didn't answer the question, so we will. This is from Gilbert Peterson on the vent. Other than Jalen Carter, which defensive lineman do you expect to step up in 2022?
Boy, that's going to be the answer there. If anybody can tell me that, they're going to be really a lot further along than me. I hope all those guys will keep developing. And the same thing we talked about the secondary. Those guys are going against our O-line all the time, and you know you're going against Jamari Salyer and McClendon and all those guys. You got to develop. So hopefully they'll be able to. And we got these 3 freshmen too that certainly have the size coming in. So hopefully those guys will be able to help too. But I would say the outside presence is going to be like no other with Jones and Williams coming in here. I just feel like those guys are. I mean, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm going to project the same thing I did for Jalen Carter 3 years ago when I told you on the show this guy's can't miss. Williams and Jones can't miss. I mean, they just give them a very good little instructional notice of how to get to Sanford Stadium and then let them play.
Make sure they get off the bus.
Down the hill. You'll be
go to the dog walk. Go to the dog walk right now, man, and line up and show them your. I mean, good Lord, those guys are. Just...
I do want to point out. I thought when Nazir Stackhouse was in the game, I thought he made some great plays last year.
He did
that kind of quickness, that I don't say. Ability to get off blocks. I didn't want to say unblocked ability, but he got off blocks pretty well. And I thought Zion Logue was just a absolute mountain in the middle there at times. I mean, not quite Jordan Davis, but he's good. But that's two guys I keep an eye on.
Look at Stackhouse speed. I mean, guy ran 100-yard dash in high school. So, but he weighs a lot more. And that's the other thing. You look at Channing Tindall, at way he's playing now compared to what when he first got here, he just has a lot more knowledge of the game, but the speed factor, that's what you're going to get with Munden and those guys. And, Davis has been hurt and Marshall's been hurt. We really don't know about them, but we got good athletes there that'll surface pretty quickly, I think.
Here's a question from D-Rock UGA. He says, here's one for Coach Donnan as we've just passed National Signing Day. Was there a recruit while you were at Georgia that you were confident that you were going to get and they ultimately signed somewhere else in the SEC? And then on the flip side, was there one that signed with Georgia that you were a bit surprised because you thought they were going somewhere else?
I mean, have we got 3 days and 14 nights to talk about it? I mean –
that's the whole job, right?
Drive myself nuts worried about those guys on the last day. There's always guys that flip around. Back then, it was you could see them up until the last minute, and then they changed the rule where you had to stop on Sunday. But of course, Marcus Stroud was starting out. I just didn't know what he was going to do there to the end, and then he picked up for us. That was big, but. As far as losing people, I could tell you a lot of them. 3 of them at 1 year that we lost, and a lot of it was due because of Augusta paper put that Georgia was going to be put on probation, which we were, but not to very much extent, but Grant and Cozy Coleman and, the running back from Atlanta that all three went to Tennessee. That hurt us that year to lose all three of those guys at Tennessee. I think that was huge.
Cajun Dog says, how many players do you think Georgia gets from the portal, and what positions do you see as Georgia's greatest needs?
Well, based on our numbers right now, we got 28 or 29. We can go to 32. So I'd say 3, unless we lose a couple more after spring. You just got to feel like some of these guys are going to see the handwriting on the wall. They'd like to stay here. That's why they didn't do anything. And sometimes they surface like Speed did, Breeny did. You would have thought they were in the portal last year, but they really made a significant move on our team and helped us a lot. So I think we'll see some guys leave. So that'll add to the portal. But, we might pick up a receiver, a inside linebacker with experience, maybe a corner. But I can't really – we'll have to see what this punter does from Australia. But kickoff, man, I think Zirkle's really doing a better job on that. I like pod kicking for sure. But what do we got there, Roddy? Am I just talking off the top of my head?
No, I was agreeing with you. I was thinking of the positions they signed. I was thinking definitely a wide receiver. And you pointed out that Georgia lost 7 defensive backs last year to the NFL and to the portal. You lost a bunch of defensive backs again this year. Again, you've reloaded with a bunch of them, but back 2 questions ago, they're very young. You brought in Tyke Smith to kind of help with that inexperience, and too bad he got banged up a couple times. But I could definitely see if you're going to bring in a 1-year guy, a 2-year guy, you're definitely going to bring in somebody really talented. And we're seeing so many big names in the portal. They've gone other places, but I'm thinking after spring, Coach, you're going to see more big names. I mean, you didn't.
Yeah, you will from other places too.
That's what I'm saying. Other guys that you think are really happy where they're at, if they're happy at LSU or Alabama or wherever, they're going to be options. So you're in the catbird seat because you've brought in a bunch of young guys that you can develop over 3 or 4 years, but you got room to bring in that kind of 1 year, that Darian Kendrick guy. So I'm definitely thinking a wide receiver and a cornerback or a safety. Somebody to help you out there. That's 2 spots I see you need somebody.
Yeah, when you look at it, the thing that Kirby's been really good at is analyzing where we are and what we got to do and where we're going to go with it.
I think one thing real quick, Roddy. Well, you know what? No, do what you're doing, and then I'll wrap. I'll bring that thought after.
I was thinking when it comes to good planning, I want people to go ahead and do a little planning for our friends over at Academia Brewing Company. They're actually having a stand-up comedy show on February 17th. The 16th is, of course, a national holiday. So nobody go to work, nobody do anything on February 16th. But on the 17th, the day after the national holiday, be sure to swing by Academia Brewing Company for their comedy show. It looks to be fantastic. And, of course, they actually have a singles night for people who are not buying Dead Soxy socks for their significant other. Swing by singles night on the 11th of February. So if you don't have a Valentine, come up there and try a singles night from 7 to 10 o'clock. Drinks for $1, or excuse me, 1 drink for $7 or 2 drinks for $10. So if you make a friend out there, it gets a lot more effective when it comes to buying your drink. So if you don't have a Valentine this year, swing by Academia Brewing Company on the 11th. And if you want to go out for a good comedy show, do that on the 17th of February. A lot of fun stuff going on out there. Just spoke to Matt Casey, the guy who came up with the whole concept, the owner operator out there. They've got a lot of new stuff coming, so be sure to swing by Academia Brewing Company for great beer, great food, and even more facility upgrades. They're doing a ton out there. And, of course, today is a Tuesday. I know last week we did a show on a Wednesday, but the fact it's a Tuesday means it's double points day at any of our Your Pie locations. So if you want the gelato, you want the new pizzas, you want the sandwiches, any of the fun stuff they have out there, if you order it on the app today, you get double the points. So be sure to hit up any of the Your Pie locations, get double points on your app. Don't miss out. It's a Tuesday, double points Tuesday, and trust me, those points add up incredibly fast. What were you going to say there?
Well, two things. One, you had mentioned stand-up comedy. If you go to our YouTube page, you can see Jeff Foxworthy calling the dogs at his show at Fox Theater on Saturday. Brent Rollins and I were there, and that was a good time. It was a really good show, and we
Special
enjoyed
guest of Mr. Foxworthy.
friend of the program, Jeff Foxworthy. Yeah, I think Brent had fun going to Will Call and saying, "Hey, Jeff Foxworthy left me some tickets. Thanks."
That's pretty badass.
I'm not sure if he said it that way, but that's how I imagine.
He better have.
What I was going to say, though, is that this portion on the calendar has really been compressed because of how long that Georgia played and the date of that national championship game. To my understanding, the typical meetings that you have with coaches to kind of define, here's where I'm at, here's what we think you should do, those haven't happened to at least full extent yet. But the other thing, like the usual offseason banquet, hasn't been able to happen, and coaches have had their vacations. And so this whole time right here in February really gets compressed at this point. So there's a lot of roster management that I think you're not going to know anything out until after spring practice.
Right. And we got spring break coming up the week before too. So just try to build up your strength gains here without the coaches. They've been on the road. The kids have been doing a lot of strength training. And one of the things you always do, which our coaches are involved with right now, that the analysts kind of put together, is a self-scout, which means look at what we did good, look what we did bad, look at some of the things that other teams are doing, and get a plan going into spring based on what your roster's strengths and weaknesses are, and who you got and who you want to accentuate and who you want to develop, and player personnel. Like you say, one-on-one meetings I think are really big. I always felt like bring you to the office and then talk to them on a one-on-one and say, this is where you are. This is where I think you need to improve. This is where you made improvement last year. And going forward, this is what I need from you. What are your goals? How do you feel like you fit in the program? And be realistic in how you communicate, because that's what you don't want to give a kid false hope or false idea about it, and that really works pretty well. It really is a good indicator of where he stands and what his chances are.
And one thing to think about too, when we say roster management, it's not just Darnell Washington and seeing kind of where he thinks his future is. It's a lot of these scout team guys, the ones that are trying to go get their shot somewhere else because the roster doesn't show that here. That takes work to make sure that you have the right people involved to be able to give the starters to look at what they're doing. And there's some guys that have been doing that for 3 and 4 years at Georgia that they're trying to get one more shot. That's a big piece of the program.
And for the fans out there, it's really critical to have a tremendous video group here. Let's just say that you're a walk-on wide receiver and you go into the video guy and say, look, I need to get some shots of me. I don't have any game tape. I want to see some of me running some individual routes, some pass skeleton, some team routes, and build up a little repertoire and get a tape together. And then you put that together and you send it to a D2 school or 1AA and say, this is what I've been able to do in practice. I haven't been able to get on the field here, but you can see my skill level. It's kind of like watching a high school tape of a guy, but now he's in college. And there's some really good guys running the scout team out there. I mean, they're doing some – Kirby's not going to let somebody play like an Alabama running back or wide receiver that doesn't have ability, So we got some really good walk-ons that sometimes don't really hit the front as far as people understanding where they are. But that's why we lose some good players that we've developed that can't get on the field. But you want the best for them where they can go and play.
Let's wrap up with this question. It's a bit of a generic one, so maybe we'll have to test our work later on. From Chrome Dog, he says, who do you guys see taking the biggest step forward based on playing time and confidence gained last season? Please pick one from offense and defense. So kind of who are our eyes on offense and defense kind of going into spring based on confidence and maybe some increased playing time.
Go ahead. I'll go last since I'm the oldest.
I'm going to let Roddy go first on this then, since he's the boss man.
Look, give me an offensive lineman. Give me a Marius Mims. Just
who you got on defense?
Defense, you're gonna have to. I'm gonna stick with Stackhouse. Just got a taste of it, got a taste of what it can be like to get in there and just break up. And again, I'm going with availability. Where's room to play? Where's the guy actually going to get a shot? Maybe it's tough. I don't see Mims moving in as a guard, but I definitely see Stackhouse getting some. Marlon Dean getting some work on the line. But we'll go with Stackhouse just as a guy that's like, look, all of a sudden Devontae Wyatt's not there. There's room for me to play, and he's chomping at the bit to get out on the field. I'm going to go with those two as my guys that we saw just for a second who should feel a lot more confident going into their being a year older and having more opportunities.
On defense, I'm going to go Smile Munden. I've heard a lot of good stuff, and he's obviously going to have an opportunity with so much turnover at inside linebacker. On offense, my eyes are on the running back room because you lose two guys at a position where four guys typically played. Assuming he remains here, because I had heard rumblings about him, potential eyes in the transfer portal, but he's still here right now. If Dayne Edwards is still here, I think he's a big piece of Georgia's offense next season.
That's good picks. Big good picks. I'm going to go with Milton. I feel like the opportunity is going to be there for him to really surface, and I really don't think he's injury prone. He just had some things happen that happened. He just can't really figure it out what happens there. And then on defense, I'm going to go with Lassiter making a real move there at corner just because of his experience. And Everett's going to be in here for the spring, and he's a really good-looking kid. But I would say those two.
I want to mention Dumas Johnson because
you don't get to mention that.
No, I'm just saying that's a guy who, when you mentioned Smile Munden, I thought, he had that great pick in the practice, and then I'm sticking with my guy, but
okay. I just wanted to bust you up.
I know that's a tough call because we talk opportunity and a guy that can come in and absolutely from that maturation, that confidence. Going back to the question, who has more confidence? I'm thinking that guy came in confident as hell, snatching balls out of practice, snatching interceptions out of the air in practice, and then doing it in a game. That's another guy who's been, I think, chopping at the bit. But I'm sticking with my Stackhouse guy. Anyway.
Hey, let's wrap the show by making fun of.
One thing you wrap the show up with is a Johnson and Johnson coming off injury is Harris Jackson and Blaylock. I think both these guys coming off major injuries, not being able to play, got that taste in their mouth, leaders. I could see both of them making a big move here in the spring.
I'm going to wrap the show by making fun of Florida. And Coin Rookie asked, who will Georgia's Nutrition Athletes of the Awards, Nutrition Athlete Awards go to this week? And Florida put that out on their social media with their Nutrition of the Week winners or something like that.
That's the other thing. We continue to lose people in assistant roles that move up. Our assistant nutritionist went to Miami as the head nutritionist. Our assistant strength coach went to Miami as a second in charge. So it's hard to you lose some good young people too because they're looking to get people from Georgia. So there's always a chance for people to move in here and help out. So we've got some people behind the scenes that have got that taste in their mouth of trying to prove themselves on a national championship team, new nutritionist, helper, new ops guy, all these things working, you guys in the strength. So those are all benefits, I think, getting these people that are trying to make their mark, but they haven't made it here, but now they're here. So that's another good thing, I think.
Very true. Anyway, I think that's all the questions, isn't it?
It is.
All right. And like Robert Barnes, what about Arik Gilbert? Hey, we're only allowed to mention so many guys. I was told following the rules.
Let me just tell you, that's a given. That's going to happen. I mean, that is going to happen. Gilbert's going to.
You can't mention everybody, Coach.
No, I'm just saying that you talked about somebody that's going to surprise you. He's not going to surprise me. He's going to. Yeah. It's a given. I mean, everybody, hey, listen, the kid went through a lot, and he wants to be here, and more power to him. And I guarantee you, we line up there with Bowers and Gilbert and Washington and wide receivers and Milton and McIntosh, and Bennett at quarterback and this offensive line. We scored 73 touchdowns this year, the most ever in Georgia history, or 72. That was a good job that Stats did, McMahon, on all these breakdowns on our stats. But most touchdowns in Georgia history. We didn't even hardly play offense in the fourth quarter, any games. We'll break that record next year.
I love it. So speaking of next year, we'll talk about next week. We will see you next Tuesday at noon. And a big shout out to our podcast sponsors, Classic City Eats, where I'm at right now. Of course, Athens Ford, Academic Brewing Company, Dead Soxy, and Your Pie. And we thank all of you for tuning in. We will see you next Tuesday at noon.